It was supposed to be just another job. Malik Turner, a hardworking black father of two, had spent the night shuttling rich guests to and from a glittering corporate party. All he wanted was to clock out, go home, and kiss his kids goodnight. But then the call came. His boss, Vanessa Ellison, the powerful and untouchable CEO of Ellison Global Media, was too drunk to drive herself home. What began as a routine late-night drive quickly spiraled into something far more personal and complicated. A whispered confession in the backseat, an unexpected stop by the marina, and a moment where she leaned into him not with desire, but with something more dangerous: vulnerability. In that quiet space between duty and humanity, Malik was faced with a choice, one that could cost him his reputation, or reveal a truth no one else dared to see. This is not just the story of a driver and his boss. This is a story about trust, dignity, and the impossible lines we're asked to walk when no one's watching. Some nights change your life, not because of what you planned, but because of what you never saw coming. Malik Turner wasn't supposed to be there that night. He had just clocked out after a 10-hour shift chauffeuring guests back and forth between hotel suites and private estates. His tired hands were still gripping the steering wheel when the call came in. "Can you take Ms. Ellison home? She's had a few drinks." Ms. Vanessa Ellison, CEO of Ellison Global Media, rich, powerful, demanding, and tonight drunk. Malik, a 42-year-old father of two, needed the overtime. Rent was due, groceries were running low, and his daughter Layla's school trip payment was still sitting on the kitchen counter, unpaid and ignored. So he said yes. He drove the company's black Lincoln Continental around to the side entrance of the gold-lit hotel, where the valet helped guide a wobbling Ms. Ellison into the back seat. Her silver dress shimmered like glass under the moonlight. Her eyes were smeared with black eyeliner, and her words slurred in apology for even needing a ride. "Malik, right?" she said, smiling too hard. "You always drive me. You're my favorite." "Did you know that?" He gave a polite nod. "Let's get you home, Ms. Ellison." The ride began quiet, until at WASN single quotes T. Asterisk, Ms. Ellison wasn't the kind of woman who let her guard down. In the office, she was fire and ice, calculating, commanding, and impossible to read. But tonight, leaning against a leather headrest with her heels kicked off and her perfume clouding the car, she was different. "You know, Malik," she said, voice heavy with wine, "I envy you." He glanced in the rearview mirror. "Me, ma'am? You have a family, a real one, people who care if you come home, people who notice when you're tired." He didn't know what to say. He kept his eyes on the road. She continued, "I'm surrounded by sharks, assistants, and sycophants. But you're respected. Your kids probably think you hang the moon." Malik offered a tight smile. "They think I drive it," he joked. She laughed sincerely, then sighed. "I hate that house. It's empty. It's not a home." That's when it happened. She reached forward, touching his shoulder. "Can you not take me home just yet?" she whispered. Malik hesitated, his hands still on the wheel, while the weight of her words hung in the silence. "Just drive. Anywhere. Somewhere quiet." He wasn't a man easily shaken, but this wasn't protocol. This wasn't in the job description. Chauffeurs didn't make decisions at one, especially not with a drunk billionaire executive in the back seat. But something about her voice stopped him from objecting. Not because she was his boss, but because, for the first time, she sounded human, not powerful, not polished, just lonely. He flicked on his turn signal, took a slow right off the freeway exit, and let the quiet hum of the tires replace the silence between them. Streetlights passed overhead like slow-moving stars. The city began to fade behind them, giving way to long stretches of residential streets and half-asleep neighborhoods. He drove toward the marina, not the tourist one, but the old dockyard tucked behind a forgotten road. It was a place he used to visit when he needed to clear his head before the kids were born, before he had 2 jobs, before his wife left. Ms. Ellison said nothing as they approached the water. She was curled up now, her arms wrapped around her, knees in the back seat like a child too tired to sleep. When he parked beside the wooden guardrails near the shore, she looked up slowly. Her eyes shimmered under the soft glow of the dashboard. Without a word, she opened the door and stepped. Barefoot onto the gravel, the silver hem of her dress brushing the dusty ground. Malik followed reluctantly, at first more out of duty than curiosity. She walked ahead, a few steps at a time, her heels in one hand, the other gently brushing the air as though trying to feel something that wasn't there. "I used to come here," she said finally, voice faint and fragile, "with my dad, before everything got messy." Malik stood beside her, hands in his coat pockets, unsure of what to say. He watched her stare out over the water. The boats bobbed quietly, lights from a distant ferry blinking faintly across the horizon. "You know," she continued, "when I was a girl, I thought success would feel like this." She motioned to the open sky, the wind, the hush. "Like peace, but it doesn't. It feels like alarms, deadlines, empty penthouses and cold coffee." Malik shifted on his feet, the gravel crunching beneath his shoes. "Maybe peace isn't something you earn," he said. "Maybe it's something you remember how to feel." She turned to him slowly, really looking at him now. Her makeup had smudged, and her eyes, so sharp during board meetings, were glassy, almost pleading. "You're a father, right?" she asked. He nodded. "2 kids. My daughter's 11. My son's 7. A smile touched her lips. "Do they know how lucky they are?" "They think I'm just tired all the time," he said with a chuckle. "They don't see the hours, just the hugs." She paused, her voice suddenly shaky. "I miscarried once. No one knew. I never told the press. Not even my assistant. It was a long time ago, but I think about it more now. As I get older, wondering what kind of mother I might have been." The confession hit him like cold wind. Malik wasn't prepared for this, for the layers of this woman that no newspaper headline ever mentioned. No Forbes article had ever printed the ache in her voice. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "Me too," she whispered. And for a long moment, they just stood there too. People from opposite worlds, bonded by something no job title could erase. Pain. Suddenly, her legs wobbled slightly, and Malik instinctively reached out to steady her. She gripped his forearm, her fingers cold. "Thank you," she murmured. Then without warning, she rested her head against his chest. Malik froze. The air between them shifted, like the tide pulling in an unspoken question. She wasn't making a move. She wasn't trying to seduce. She just needed to rest. To feel a human heartbeat that didn't expect anything in return. He didn't push her away. But his mind raced. What would this look like if someone saw them? What if she remembered none of this in the morning? What if she did? And that was when the real fear sank in. He was no longer just a driver taking his boss home. He was now a man standing at the edge of a choice between protecting his job or protecting her truth. And the night wasn't over yet. The clock on the dashboard read 1:42. Malik stood still as a statue beneath the faint glow of the dockyard lights. Vanessa Ellison, the same woman who once fired a man for misprinting a client's name, was now leaning into him like a child, seeking shelter. Her breath was slow, her eyes closed, her grip soft on his forearm. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't even emotional in the way people might assume. It was human. But Malik knew the world didn't see things that way. A black man, a white, wealthy, vulnerable woman, alone, late, and no witnesses. He gently, carefully placed his hand on her shoulder. "Ms. Ellison," he said quietly, "it's late. Let's get you home now." She blinked slowly and looked up at him, confused for a moment, as if waking from a dream. "Home," she repeated. "Right, yeah, of course." They walked back to the car in silence, the moment between them sealed away like a secret neither one could fully name. When she slid back into the rear seat, she didn't speak. She simply leaned her head against the window, her fingers tracing invisible lines in the glass. Malik drove cautiously through the sleeping neighborhoods. Every few blocks, he checked the mirror, not to spy, but to make sure she was okay. She looked peaceful now. Or perhaps exhausted beyond pretending. It was just past 2 a.m. when they arrived at her gated estate, a sprawling glass and marble fortress overlooking the hills, lit by motion sensors and security cameras on every corner. As Malik pulled up to the front, the large iron gate opened slowly. The driveway lights flickered on automatically, illuminating the smooth stone path and towering modern columns. He stopped the car, shifted to park, and got out to open her door. She didn't move right away. "Do you need help inside?" he asked. Gently, she looked up at him again. Her eyes, once clouded with wine, now seemed clearer, more present. "No, I'll be fine," she said. Almost too quickly, she stepped out barefoot still and stood just inches from him. The night wind tugged gently at her hair. She looked at him as though trying to remember something important, something fragile. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a small folded envelope, and held it out to him. "Take this," she said. He hesitated. "Ma'am, it's not money," she added. "Well, it is, but not a tip. It's for your daughter, the school trip. You mentioned it in passing once, 2 weeks ago," I remembered. Malik swallowed hard. "I can't accept this," he said, voice low. "It's too much." "It's not," she replied firmly. "And tonight I leaned on you, literally. And you didn't cross a line. You didn't take advantage." "Do you know how rare that is in my world?" He didn't respond. Just stood there, envelope in hand, unsure whether to be grateful or deeply uncomfortable. She offered one last smile. This one was real. Small, honest. "Good night, Malik." Then she walked up the marble steps, slowly, gracefully, disappearing behind the tall front door without another word. He stood alone in the driveway for a moment, the envelope burning in his palm like a choice he hadn't meant to make. Then he got back into the car, pulled away, and didn't look back. By Monday morning, the stillness of that night had been replaced by something sharper. Whispers. Malik stepped into the sleek underground garage of Ellison Global Media just after 8. Imam, dressed in his crisp black uniform, shoes polished, hat in hand. On the surface, nothing had changed. The world spun the same. The building still smelled like leather and success. But beneath it all, something had shifted. He could feel it in the way 2 junior associates glanced at him a little too long near the elevators, in the way the security guard nodded stiffly instead of grinning like usual, and especially in the way Ms. Ellison's assistant Miranda, cool and calculating, greeted him with a tight-lipped smile instead of her usual half-joke. "About traffic, Ms. Ellison is running behind this morning," she said as he approached. "She'll be working from home until noon. You're not needed for her commute today." Malik nodded. "Understood." But as he turned to leave, Miranda called after him. "Oh, and Malik?" He stopped. She didn't say anything. "Just so. You know, but people talk." That was it. Just that. But it was enough to tell him that someone knew he'd driven her home. And someone was already filling in blanks that didn't exist. Later that afternoon, while organizing the fleet logbook in the driver's lounge, Malik's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Can you meet me privately?" Discreetly. "Conference room 17A, 6:15 p.m. He stared at the screen. There was no signature, no name. But something in his gut told him exactly who it was. Sure enough, just after 6 p.m., he quietly slipped into the elevator and took it to the 17th floor, usually reserved for legal and finance. Conference room 17A was tucked in the back, cold and windowless. Barely used. She was already there. Vanessa stood near the far wall, wearing a navy pantsuit this time, her hair pulled back, makeup flawless. She looked like the version of herself the world expected: composed, brilliant, untouchable. "Close the door," she said. He did. "I'm sorry to call you up like this," she began. "But I thought we should talk before this becomes something it's not." Malik kept his expression unreadable. "I'm not afraid of gossip," she continued, "but I am afraid of damage to your reputation and to mine." "You think people will assume something happened," he said quietly. "They already have," she replied. "Even Miranda, who's loyal as hell, asked if I wanted to manage the narrative." She rolled her eyes. "God, I hate that phrase." Malik felt his jaw tighten. "I didn't do anything wrong." "I know," she said, stepping closer. "That's why I wanted to see you. Because if this story spins out of control, the truth won't matter. They'll see what they want to see. Rich white woman. Black. Driver, late night. Private stop. Envelope in hand." She stopped. "Do you still have it?" He pulled it from his coat pocket. "Still sealed, untouched. I never opened it." Vanessa stared at the envelope as though it held something radioactive. "Destroy it," she said. "Please, for your sake." "Why?" "Because if someone finds it, even unopened, it'll look like hush money. Like a bribe, and you will be the one who suffers." Malik felt a wave of cold rise in his chest. His fingers clenched around the paper, not out of greed, but out of something else. Something close to pride. "I was just trying to do my job," he said. "I know," she said again, more softly this time. "That's why I'm asking you to let this moment go. I'll wire the school trip funds anonymously. I'll make sure your daughter never misses anything again. But this envelope, it can't exist." He looked at her. Really looked. For all her power, all her poise, she was scared. Maybe not of him, but of what people could make of him. And suddenly, Malik understood something deep and bitter. Even when you do the right thing, you're not always protected from the wrong stories. He took the envelope, walked over to the shredder in the corner of the room, and fed it through slowly. They both watched the paper disappear, strip by strip. Then she said, barely above a whisper, "Thank you." And just like that, the meeting was over. That evening, Malik sat at the dinner table across from his daughter Layla and son Jamal, the comforting smell of spaghetti and garlic bread filling their small apartment. The kids laughed as they told stories about school. Layla going on about her science project, Jamal showing off a wobbly tooth with pride. But Malik wasn't laughing. Not fully. Not tonight. His eyes drifted to the envelope that used to be. The one that could have paid for the school trip 10 times over. The one that now existed only in memory and shredded paper in a corporate bin. Layla noticed. "Daddy, are you okay?" she asked between bites. He blinked, snapped out of his daze. "Yeah, baby, just thinking." "About work?" she asked. Something like that. She studied him, as only daughters can. "You always look tired after fancy boss driving. You should drive normal people more," he chuckled. "Normal people don't tip like fancy bosses." Layla smiled, but something in her eyes lingered. Kids can tell when you're hiding something. They don't always know what it is, but they can feel it like pressure in the air before a storm. After dinner, Malik stood by the sink washing dishes as the TV murmured cartoons from the living room. His thoughts circled like soap suds, round and messy and endless. Had he done the right thing? He'd protected Ms. Ellison, protected himself, protected his family from the rumors and assumptions and poison that could have spread like wildfire. If that envelope had fallen into the wrong hands, but part of him still ached. Not because he wanted the money, but because of what it symbolized. Trust. And how quickly trust could become threat, even when nothing inappropriate had happened. He dried his hands and checked his phone. One new message. Your daughter's field trip is covered. Anonymous donor. Please don't ask who. Sleep well, no name. No signature, but he knew. And for the first time in days, his chest felt lighter. Friday morning came with heavy rain. The kind that makes the city feel softer, more forgiving. Malik was assigned to pick up Ms. Ellison from a charity breakfast downtown. The kind of event that required public smiles, photo ops, and champagne that no one really drank. When she stepped into the back seat, she was all business again. Dressed in white, sunglasses on, talking into her earpiece about time zones and advertising revenue. But after a few blocks, she muted the call, took off the glasses, and leaned forward slightly. "Thank you again," she said, voice quiet, but clear. He didn't respond right away, just nodded once, keeping his eyes on the wet road. Then she added, "What you did, or rather what you didn't do, that matters to me more than I can explain." Malik glanced in the mirror. "I didn't do anything special." "Yes," she said, "you did. You gave me dignity that night. I've had enough of the world strip it from me." He took a breath. "I didn't want anything from you, Ms. Ellison, just to keep you safe and get you home." She nodded. "That's what made it so rare." A long silence followed. Not awkward, just thoughtful. Finally she added, "One day, the world will stop seeing you as a risk, Malik, and start seeing you as the asset you are." He smirked faintly. "I won't hold my breath." She laughed. "Maybe you won't have to." The car pulled up to the next meeting. She stepped out, back into her public armor, flanked by cameras and umbrellas. But before she shut the door, she turned back once more. "You ever want to do more than drive?" she said. "Come find me." Quiet people make the best leaders. They know how to carry weight without making noise. And just like that, she disappeared again into a world of lights, titles, and carefully spun narratives. But Malik stayed in the car, staring at the empty seat she'd left behind, wondering, had she meant it? Or was that just another line in a long play he didn't fully understand? 2 weeks passed. Life, as it tends to do, went on. Malik drove, punched in, clocked out, helped Jamal with his math, homework, sewed the loose strap on Layla's backpack, paid bills, smiled when he was supposed to, kept quiet when he wasn't. He didn't hear from Ms. Ellison again, not directly. The silent gratitude had come and gone like a breeze, gentle, private, but gone nonetheless. But something was different, not outside, not in the company, in him. It happened one Saturday morning. Layla had been invited to a sleepover and needed to be dropped off across town. The house belonged to a classmate, Giselle, whose mother was an executive at a law firm. As Malik stood on the porch chatting politely with her, waiting to make sure Layla got inside, the woman tilted her head. "Your name's Malik Turner?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." "You work for Ellison Global?" He hesitated, nodding slowly. She smiled. "Vanessa told me about you." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" She didn't say much. "Just that you were someone who understood integrity better than most CEOs she knows." I think that was the word she used. Integrity. Malik didn't know what to say. The woman continued. "If you ever want a referral, anywhere, call me. People like you, they're rare." Later that night, Malik sat alone in the kitchen. The apartment was still. Jamal was already asleep. Layla would be gone till morning. The city beyond the window buzzed faintly, but in here, it was just quiet. He opened the drawer beside the sink and pulled out a small, worn notebook, his life ledger, as he called it. The one he used to track goals he never had time for. Half-sketched dreams, budget math, deferred ideas. At the top of the next page, he wrote, "Business license application, January." He stared at it for a long time, not because it was perfect, but because it was his. He didn't need handouts. He didn't need praise. He didn't even need Ms. Ellison's offer, not yet. What he needed was to believe that character still mattered. That keeping quiet when you could have shouted, walking away when you could have grabbed, and choosing dignity over drama meant something. Still, in this world. And somehow, over the past few weeks, despite the fear, the tension, the weight of reputation and race and assumption, Vanessa had seen it. She hadn't just protected him. She had remembered him, and maybe, just maybe, the world could remember too. Months later, long after gossip had shifted to newer scandals and richer headlines, Malik drove past the old marina one foggy morning. He pulled over, not for anyone else this time, but for himself. The water was still. The same boats, the same pier, but something inside him had changed. He stepped out of the car, breathed in the cool, salt air, and stood in silence. For a moment, he remembered that night. The weight of her head on his chest. The decision not to take the easy way. The envelope. The shredder. The silence afterward. And then he smiled. Because sometimes the most powerful choice you can make is to be the person no one expects and never regret it. The road is long. But Malik Turner was ready now, not just to drive it, but to own it.